My 22 female sister Lee, 25, unexpectedly had a loss a week ago. I felt incredibly guilty because I recently found out I was pregnant as well, but I'd opted to wait to tell anyone. I felt guilty, so I elected to keep quiet about it for as long as I could, as I didn't want to take any attention away from her grief or cause her any pain. This became a problem when my family arranged a little get-together at her place to help her feel better, where alcohol was involved. The night was going fine and my sister really seemed to be smiling and enjoying herself. I was staying away from the alcohol, kind of shutting down the strange looks from my family and friends who know I rarely turn down the opportunity to drink. Most believed my lies except my sister's friend, Ash, who approached me and asked, "Are you pregnant or something? Why aren't you drinking?" I laughed and said I had to watch out for my health and tried to change the subject. My sister saw us talking, however, and came up with a shot in her hand. She basically said that she was really glad I was here and wanted to take a shot with me. I had a feeling that Ash had told her I wasn't drinking and had come to confirm her suspicions. I turned her down and said I was happy to be in the moment with her. Lee got this teary look on her face and kind of eyed my stomach. She set the drink down and asked me slowly if I was pregnant and trying to hide it. I froze in the moment, which must have confirmed what she suspected. She burst into tears and asked again, much louder this time, which caused most of the people in her apartment to look at us. She told me to either drink the shot or tell her the truth. I wasn't sure what to do, so I just told her the truth. I tried to tell her that I didn't want to take attention away from her pain, but she wasn't listening. She started accusing me of coming to her apartment to boast about my pregnancy and how I always got what I wanted. She also said that I shouldn't have come to the party knowing that I couldn't drink, and that I knew people were going to know I was pregnant, and basically going on about how I was attention-seeking. Our dad stepped in to calm her down because she was belligerent at this point. My boyfriend and I had decided it was best for us to just leave. I even got a few quiet congrats, which I felt awful about. She's not talking to me right now, which I understand, but at the same time, all I really wanted was to be there for her. People are more so leaning in her side because she's going through a hard time right now, but I feel like I'm not being listened to. My mom told me that she understood, but that it was wrong of me to come knowing I was pregnant. So am I an IDOT? Not an IDOT. Your sister needs to understand that the universe is not about her. You do not appear to have done anything to boast about your pregnancy. You were discreet, and frankly she behaved very badly. The loss is indeed a very recent event, but she is having a party put on for her and apparently enjoying it, which suggests that she is coping okay. Seems like you couldn't win here because for some reason nobody is allowed to be pregnant when your sister is not. This is unreasonable. 100% agree, you couldn't win either way. You would have been blasted for being unsupportive if you didn't go. You did go and have been blasted for that. You tried your best. Tip for the future: if asked why you aren't drinking, tell people you have a bad tooth or an ear infection and you're taking antibiotics. If they say, "Oh, one won't hurt," laugh and say, "Yeah, I made that mistake once before, never again." For added realism, look up how some antibiotics interact with alcohol and claim low symptoms. This is such an easy alternative that I don't understand why people don't do it, because sometimes you just don't think about it on the spot. I came up with every excuse on the planet, absolutely dumb ones such as, "So is driving, so I want to be sympathetic," or just avoided people who I knew would ask me why I wasn't drinking. When I no longer needed an excuse, that's when I was like, wait, I could have just told you I'm on antibiotics, why didn't I use that? It's obvious. However, Ash sounds like a nasty little crap stirrer. You never ask someone if they're pregnant in the company of someone who's having a loss or not. OP didn't need to come up with an excuse on the spot. She knew exactly the situation she was going into. You are an IDOT. Hear me out. Something in this story reeks of you wanting people to find out you were pregnant without saying it out loud to them. Why couldn't you have just held a glass the whole night, pretended to drink, or have ginger ale or another beverage that looked like the real thing? You clearly say they expected you to drink. You knew they were going to ask you why you weren't drinking. You should have either not come or have prepared a plausible lie. Honestly, I feel like you wanted them to find out. Story 2. The other day I went to lunch with 4 mom friends. I'm a stay-at-home mom and so is one of the other moms. Of the other 3, one works part-time and the other 2 full-time. One of the moms who works full-time mentioned that they'd started paying for a cleaner to come in every other week. They both work full-time, have 2 kids, and can't keep up with all the chores. The other stay-at-home mom agreed with her about finding it difficult to keep the house clean when her husband does only a few chores inside the house. She told us her husband's main jobs are cooking dinner, cleaning the bathrooms, and looking after the yard. In my opinion, that's a more than fair distribution of chores, considering her husband works full-time, they have one child, a twin female, and no pets. I told her that it sounded pretty fair, and that my husband has zero cleaning chores and mostly only cooks on the weekends if he wants. I told her that as he works full-time to provide for our family, I consider it my job to do most of the household chores. This isn't gender-related in my opinion. If we both worked, I would agree about splitting chores equally, or if I worked and he didn't, I would expect him to do most of the housework. I have 5 children, the youngest 2 aren't in school, and I'm a carer for my husband's grandmother, yet still it's easy to set aside a couple of hours a day for household chores. She strongly disagreed with me, and she thinks her husband should be doing more and told me couples should split housework equally. I told her that she's being ungrateful to her husband, who allows her to be a stay-at-home mom, even now their child is older. I asked what she does all day, if she expects him to do half the chores, and that she just wants an excuse to be lazy. In the end, lunch was ruined. She called me anti-feminist and an IDOT. 2 of our friends took her side, telling me off for judging her. Was I the IDOT here? I feel like I was pointing out the obvious. I'm also a stay-at-home mom, but my youngest kids are only toddlers and preschoolers. I'm pretty busy, but having one kid who's already a twin and obviously is at school all day, how busy could she possibly be? When my older kids were that age, I had a lot more time for things. It sounds like her husband does his fair share. Maybe telling her this at a group lunch wasn't the best idea, but it came up, so I get why you said something. Unless she's somewhat disabled or has another reason she can't cover most of the housework, I'm going with not the IDOT. I disagree. You are an IDOT. Sometimes people just want to vent. Sometimes people just want a kind ear who will listen to them because they're a stay-at-home mom, and they mainly talk to their child all day. But you thought it was more important to insult this person instead. What did you expect would happen? That your friend would say, "Oh my gosh, OP, you're right. I am a lazy IDOT and I need to do better. Thank you so much for helping me to see the error of my ways." Saying your husband can't even take care of his grandma and just throws everything on OP's shoulders is awful. Her husband doing nothing in his home of 8 people is not a brag of any sort. That's just sad and pathetic. Just because she's good with a domestically useless husband doesn't mean everyone else has to settle for that crap. She's just convinced herself this is the way and wants to drag her friend along for the ride because otherwise she'd be angry. OP is extremely jealous that her friend's life appears easier than hers and still wants to vent. It's not her friend's fault that OP's husband doesn't want to help out more around the house. On top of that, he dumps caring for 5 children and another adult, his mother, on OP's tired shoulders because he allows her to be a stay-at-home mom. OP wants everyone to suffer like she is, otherwise they have to shut up and not complain. Misery loves company. Story 3. I have 3 kids. Brock, 24 male, Misty, 21 female, and Ash, a 19-year-old female. Misty graduated from high school in 2020. Due to world events, her senior year was spent at home. Things like her senior trip, spring break, and prom got cancelled. Her school never planned a makeup trip or prom for her year and instead went back to business for the class of 2021. Misty, props to her, never complained about it. She accepted things with a sense of resignation, if that makes sense. Regardless, I can see that it hurt her to see her brother and sister get to do the things she couldn't do. A few weeks ago, Misty reached out and asked if I could help her out with something. Her favorite actor will perform on Broadway next spring, and she desperately wants to see that show. She's in college and has a job, but needs help paying for a ticket. She made it clear that I didn't have to pay for her if I didn't want to, but given what happened 3 years ago and how she took it, I felt bad for her. What she went through wasn't fair, so I bought Misty a ticket for opening night. It was expensive, yes, but frankly, it was about the same amount that was spent for Ash's prom or Brock's Letterman jacket and banquet. My husband doesn't agree. He thinks I'm spoiling Misty. He doesn't see how it's fair to give our adult daughter money for a trip and not do the same for the other kids. To him, what happened in 2020 happened in 2020, and he can't do anything to fix it. I disagree. Brock and Ash got to go on trips, banquets, and prom for their senior year, and Misty spent hers under lockdown. She really had nothing to commemorate her senior year, and the money I spent on her ticket was less than all of our other children's senior year expenses. I need an outside perspective. Am I an IDOT, or is my husband in the wrong? Not the IDOT, but why does your husband hate your daughters so much? You give your kids what they need at the time. If you need to keep it fair, call it an early Christmas present. Your husband is keeping score, willing to deny his daughter a once-in-a-lifetime experience. He is an IDOT. His rigidity isn't logical. He's being too hard here. Misty deserves this. He needs to remember it was a tough year for everyone. Now imagine missing out on the major life milestones everyone else gets. I disagree about calling it a Christmas present because he'll try to give the other two kids something of similar value when that isn't what it's for. I'm pretty confident her siblings would say that this trip is fair for her, because 2020 shut down her senior year so much. The husband needs to reevaluate that this money would have been spent 3, almost 4 years ago, but it never was. Senior trip and this concert may be apples and oranges, but so are your kids and the circumstances of their years in high school. Instead of spending her money first and then asking you for rent, she prioritized adult responsibilities. She only then reached out for help getting some fun experiences she wants, deserves, and probably very much needs after a stressful transition from high school to college. Yes, 2020 is over, and nothing will change that, but there's nothing wrong with telling her that you're proud of how she's handled it, and handing over money you'd budgeted for her high school senior expenses. I hope she enjoys the show. Story 4. A 35 male, yelled at my wife, 32, after she took my son's phone after he got a B on his report card. My son and my wife get home before I do. Today was the last day of his grading cycle, and he got all A's except for 1 B. He takes school seriously, and I wouldn't even punish him for a C or an F if it was a one-time thing. It's Friday, so he's usually on his Xbox with his friends. When I asked my wife where he was, she told me she grounded him for getting a B on his report card. At first, I thought she was joking because I couldn't fathom being that strict on him. When I asked her where he really was, she looked confused. When I realized she was serious, I told him to give him his phone back. I told him she would not punish him for any reason, even if it was justified. She told me that was stupid, and she should have equal say. This might make me an IDOT, but I laughed at her response and told her that that was the dumbest thing I heard. I told her just because she is his new stepmother doesn't mean she gets an equal say in punishment, especially if she's going to punish him wrongfully. She told me a B is nothing to be proud of. I told her that's subjective and I doubt he is proud of it. She called me an IDOT for not letting her be a mom. I think I should mention that me and his mom are still friends and talk to each other, so her wanting to be his mom isn't realistic. Am I the IDOT in all of this? Not the IDOT times 2. He has a mother and a father. His stepmother is your wife and not his mother. She must run any proposed punishments by you. Punishment for a B is entirely out of line. This looks more like a power play than any reasonable expectation for a child. Be watchful for other, more subtle signs of abuse. I was a little shocked when you said that she's never allowed to punish him, but then you revealed that she's a step-parent, so that makes sense. Even if she's right, she's not, and B is nothing to be proud of. It's definitely not something to be punished for. She does know her B's from her D's, right? Oh, also, if this is about you not letting her be a mom, she had to have known this when she got together with you, so that's on her too. Grounding someone for a B is ridiculous. Grounding your brand new stepson for a grade, for goodness sake, without discussing it with the parent is even more ridiculous. Asserting she has an equal say and discipline to you is concerning. Assuming she's a mom to a kid who already has a mom is, well, a red flag. Not the IDOT for defending your son, but for subjecting him to your wife? I guarantee that this is just the tip of the iceberg. Story 5. My husband, 38, has 2 children, female and male twins from a previous relationship. We also have 2 kids together, a male toddler and an infant daughter. My husband and I started our relationship 6 years ago, and we moved in pretty quickly. A year after our relationship, his ex moved to Bali to start a business. The kids were supposed to be with us for 6 months, and they went to Bali to live with their mother. Unfortunately, the kids could never go to Bali due to her financial circumstances. Initially, the kids had difficulty adjusting to me and being away from their mom. My husband did activities with them without me to make them adjust better to the change. This really helped my stepson adjust better, but my stepdaughter was still having a hard time. I started to take her with me to get her hair and nails done. After our spa day together, we usually go to a bakery for lunch. Then we just go shopping, get takeout, and end the day with a movie night. She really enjoyed our time together and changed and became more comfortable with me. My husband's ex temporarily came back 2 weeks ago. My stepdaughter had this dark pink nail polish on and her mother was unhappy. To keep it short, she not so nicely asked me to stop the spa weekends or else. I told my stepdaughter that we unfortunately can't do our spa weekends anymore, but that I'd still take her to the bakery for lunch, just not doing her hair and nails anymore. She was of course very upset, but she'll probably get over it. My husband is the one who's extremely angry. I tried to talk to him and explain that I was just following their mom's lead. As a parent, he should understand why I'm not doing the spa day with her. Am I an IDOT? You are an IDOT. Your husband has legal custody of your stepdaughter. He is the person you discuss things with. Also, he is the person who his ex should be talking to about their daughter. Don't talk to the ex. If she asks you to do or not do something, direct her to talk to the kid's father. You are not part of their co-parenting discussions. You discuss things with your husband before you change the status quo. Her mom bailed on this kid. She can't come swinging in for a few days here and there and dictate how you spend your time with your stepdaughter. Seriously, you can be respectful of her place and the fact that this is her asserting herself because she feels guilty and worried that her daughter will love you more than her. But when she leaves, back to the spa you go. That's a really nice tradition. By the way, your husband should be very direct with his ex and keep you out of it. The mother is an IDOT. She probably saw how happy it was making her daughter and wanted it to stop so OP could be the bad guy again, but she abandoned her kids. Take the girl to the spa days. If the mother doesn't like it, she can keep her jealous and petty butt in the States or take the children to Bali. If your husband has your back, keep doing what you are doing.